Hello, folks. I'm OdinSpack, and welcome back to 33 years and counting of my favorite games. This is part 18, the year 2005, and we're just gonna get right into it. I don't really have anything fun to say for 2005. Not that it was not a great year. Definitely one of my favorite games of all time is in here, but I don't really have anything specific to talk about as far as 2005 events go. So we're gonna get right into the honorable mentions. I got two of them for you here today. My first is going to be The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. It's for the Game Boy Advance. There's nothing I don't have a lot to speak on Minish Cap. I did do a Let's Play of it, if you are interested in that. And the reason I did do a Let's Play of it is because I do enjoy the game. I actually hadn't played it very long before my Let's Play. It was relatively new. I remember playing it on the bus, actually. I bought it used back when games weren't absurdly expensive. I don't recall paying a lot of money for this game. I remember being really excited to play it because I'd heard of it and I was like, this was like this was like the era where I was like, oh yeah, like there was these entries like on the Game Boy Advance and the DS, and I never really paid much attention to them. I always thought of them as like kind of like these just like side games that weren't important. But like Minish Cap is a fully fleshed out 2D Zelda game. Like there's nothing weird about it. It's a Zelda game. But that's kind of where it ends. Like it is just a solid Zelda game. And that's really all it needs to get an honorable mention for me because I really enjoy the series. Like there are other standout Zelda games that might place higher on my list of favorite games. But I just enjoy the 2D Zelda experience. That's the genre I like most when it comes to Zelda. 3D Zelda's okay. I haven't played a lot of them. Um, but the 2D ones are just a fun romp, and that's what Minish Cap is to me. It's just a fun romp. I don't think it does anything special. I don't think the music's that great because it's on the GBA, and honestly, it doesn't have the best sound. Some games do it better than others. Minish Cap's just one of those that really doesn't for me. Kind of feels like, oh yeah, this is a Game Boy Advance game, right? Um, but it's a fine game. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, there you go. Like I said, I don't have a lot to say on it. It's just a fun playthrough. That's all it takes sometimes. My other honorable mention is gonna go to WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. This is like my first like real sports game, which by the way, saying that sounds ridiculous talking about wrestling, real. Um but this is the second in the SmackDown versus Raw series. It's not like the second wrestling game ever, but it's the second in the series where they started doing yearly entries to kind of try and you know make money, I guess, but also to kind of mimic a lot of the other sports franchises that would do yearly releases. They kind of tried to go in that direction. However, I will say for this game particularly, they did a great job with it. SmackDown vs. Raw was fun. I remember playing that one a lot the year before. Now I realize this is 2006, by the way, and this is like I'm talking about 2005. But a lot of these sports games, like they have like a year. Like it's like if the year is 2007, the game came out 2006. It's just kind of usually how they release them. That's not important. What I want to say is SmackDown vs. Raw was okay, but this next entry I really enjoy for all of the for all of the non wrestling parts. I know that sounds really silly, um, but this game introduced the General Manager mode or GM mode, and it's a very light simulation of being able to control a brand or a roster of superstars or wrestlers to compete against the AI or another player. So it's like playing a season mode of a hockey game, but with two teams. Which sounds like that could be lame, but it's actually not, just because of how wrestling works. It is actually really cool, especially if you are playing with somebody else. I never have finished a full season of that, but I did play a little bit with my brother back around the time I got the game, and it's a lot of fun. And that's like my favorite part about the game is, like I said, the management sim that exists within it. Something that seems like it would be just like this side thing. It just works. Like I don't know what it is about wrestling. It helps that like I enjoy watching wrestling, so I can get into it and understand how to like book matches and whatnot. Um, but it's very simple, but it works. They have put this mode into a couple of other games, and this one, even though it's the simplest one, it just may be the easiest because of how simple it is. The one that came out next year, 2007, is also very strong, but I played it on the PS2 and it was kind of glitchy a bit, but this was also the transition period between PS2 and PS3. So like maybe they just put more effort into like the next gen, and I mean those games on those next gen consoles actually go for a lot more, and I like never see them, and usually if I do they're like like $20 minimum, which isn't like a crazy amount, but for like a sports wrestling game it is a lot. So I guess it's just maybe one of the better versions of that. Now that's 2007. I'm just saying that 2007's GM mode I just think was a little too complicated for me, and maybe that's just because I didn't own that one growing up. I only rented it, whereas 2006 I owned it. So there's probably some nostalgia there. Like I said, I recently, like as of like a year ago, I actually tried to do a GM mode of 2007, and it just didn't click the same. But it was still fun. But we're talking about 2006. It's fun. I really enjoy it. I enjoy wrestling games. And this one is probably my favorite one. It just kind of does everything right. Sometimes those yearly entry sports games, you find one that is just it stands out. You know how like a lot of times people are like, well, maybe if they didn't do an entry every year, they would be good. But some of those yearly entries are good. And that is one of them. That was good. Anyway, those are my honorable mentions. Let's move on to my top three for 2005. Let's start with bronze medal. It's gonna go to Mario Kart DS for the Nintendo DS. This was my launch title Nintendo DS game because this was the first game that I ever owned on Nintendo DS. I got my DS Lite, which I guess would have been 2006 because I think that's when the DS Lite came out. I got my DS Lite for my birthday with no game. Uh, I won't get into that, but I didn't have a game to begin with, so I just continued to play Pokemon Ruby and sink all of the hours that I did into that game, like over 500 or whatever it was. I don't know, something dumb like that. I put a lot of time into Pokemon Ruby, so I just continued to play it on DS Lite. Even after I got Mario Kart DS, I still did. Um, but I did get Mario Kart DS not very long after I got my DS Lite. Um, and this was when Mario Kart DS is when I really started to enjoy the Mario Kart formula. And I feel like starting with this game, I feel like the games have gotten better every time. Now, you need to keep something in mind with this is before Mario Kart DS, I only ever owned Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. I had rented and briefly played Mario Kart 64, Super Circuit, and Double Dash. So those were all rents for me, or maybe played them at a friend's house. But I didn't do that very often. But Mario Kart DS was like the first one that I owned since Super Mario Kart. So maybe that's why I think they've just gotten better ever since. But seriously, like I would not go back probably and play Mario Kart DS now. Um, but I think they just kind of continued to improve along the formula with Wii and 7 and 8. That's just how I feel on the series. But going back to the game, uh, playing this on the DS was a ton of fun. I loved the Nintendo DS's uh, like wireless play feature where you could like share your games with other people, and they would get like demo versions basically. But sometimes for games like this, you could actually play the game with them as opposed to just sending them a demo. I remember playing uh, the light mode of Mario Kart DS with my sister, and you could only play the first two cups, and you could only she had to play a shy guy every time, which for some reason wasn't an actual character you could pick. Like it was only like they were if you had to play Mario Kart and you didn't own Mario Kart, you had to play a shy guy. Like that was like a punishment. But I think shy guy was like a fine character. So like that was the only way you could play a shy guy. Very random. But like that was a neat feature. I played the heck out of those first two cups. And this game had a really neat mission mode, which, to my knowledge, doing everything didn't get you anything. I don't remember it. It may have unlocked some stuff, but definitely doing everything did not unlock something. I remember like doing that, and I'm like, okay, nothing changed, and so that was a little disappointing. This game had a interesting character lineup. It introduced Waluigi Pinball. Everyone loves that track. And this game had like a ton of carts that every character. Once you eventually got through the entire game and got everything, every character could use any cart, which was really cool. Because the game before this, Double Dash, it was like limited based on like weight classes and stuff. I think every character in theory, no, actually, I don't think like the heavyweight characters could use the lightweight carts in that game. But anyway, any character could use any cart. I remember my combination being Toad, because I love using Toad. Like I have since like Super Mario Kart. I eventually started graduating to the heavyweight characters in the future entries, but I remember using Toad in Luigi's standard cart. I don't know why. That was the combination that I went with. I don't know why. This game had dry bones in a tank. You could drive a tank cart. Well, you could use a tank with anybody, but there was just really cool stuff in this game. It had a lot of neat features, and this was the first game to really flesh out the retro tracks mode, where they bring back tracks from previous Mario Kart entries. They had done something similar in Super Kart, but they literally just like put every Super Mario Kart in track into that game. But this is the first one to like pick and choose and make cups for it, and it was like a core part of the game. And a lot of the tracks were neat. There's nothing like memorable that's really sticking to me right now that I'm just like, oh yeah, I love this track from this game. And that's because a lot of these tracks that have since appeared in future games, I like associate them with that because I have not played Mario Kart DS in so long. But again, this is a nostalgia pick, but also I think for the time I just had an absolute blast with it. So there you go. And guess what? Solid soundtrack. All right, my silver medal for 2005 is gonna go to Soul Calibur 3, exclusively on the PlayStation 2. This is, I think, the only Soul Calibur game that's like that, where they didn't put it on like multiple consoles. Well, actually, I think the first one is only on the Dreamcast. Okay, well, I lied. But it's weird that after Soul Calibur 2 was on like GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, for Soul Calibur 3, they were like, you know what? Nah, let's just put it on PS2. And this is, I think, the only one since 2 that doesn't have any guest characters in it. It's just like all of its own roster. However, this is the first one in the series to introduce one of my favorite things in any video game, character creation. And there's a lot of that, by the way, in SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, which is another reason why it's cool. But this game allowed you to create characters, and what was interesting is they had their own weapons that were, and so like if you played a fighting game, does that like really make any sense? Maybe not so much. So like there's the entire regular cast of characters, but then there's a bunch of weapons that are like, they're kind of like weakened versions of a lot of the movesets. Some are unique though. Some are really cool. I remember using the katana and shuriken combo. That was a weapon option in the game. Just there's really weird stuff, and I think I just really used that because I was like, well, none of the other main characters fight like this. And then, of course, as you play through the game, you can put like the main characters' weapons on like your creative characters too. So you can there's a lot of potential, and Soul Calibur is definitely one of those series that is known for their character creation as the games have gone on. Some people have made some insane stuff. But even back in the day, I remember going on GameFAQs and looking up how, like, oh, you can make this character from Final Fantasy if you use these parts and color them this way. And a lot of them turned out really cool. And they all used the the kicking weapon because there was no punching in the game. There was a kick weapon, though. very weird. This game also had a bizarre create a character RTS game in it that was actually pretty awesome. I loved it so much. It's very simple, but that's a feature in the game. There are so many bizarre modes in this game. Um, it I think this is like this is like the hidden gem of the Soul Calibur series because it was like exclusively on the PS2. I don't think it's ever been re-released or anything like that. Um, Definitely one to check out. Okay, and I do have a lot of memories of playing 1v1s against my sister on this because we would just like go to the Coliseum level where you couldn't ring out, put on infinite health, and then we would just spar and just like try and get better and better at the game. So much that when I was in high school, we had this video game tournament and Soul Calibur 3, it was like this it was a whole bunch of different games, but Soul Calibur 3 was one of the days and I absolutely destroyed my opponent because I played it all the time. So like I just remember that, and I guess I have my sister to thank because we played it so much. So it was an absolute blast. All right, my gold medal game for 2005. I can't believe this came out the same year as any of these other games. This game, for the record, this is one of my all timers. I don't know if I've mentioned this term. I've been thinking about it for a while, but all timer being one of my all time favorite games. But I'm just trying to give it a cool name, all right? So I'm trying to introduce a phrase to use in future series, and then that way you'll know, like, oh, all timer. But anyway, this is one of my all timers. I don't know where, but it definitely is an all timer. And that is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance on the Nintendo GameCube. Man, I don't know where to begin with this game on like do I talk about the nostalgia parts of it? Do I talk about the parts that I still enjoy today? I guess I can just kind of get into it. Me and my brother really liked playing Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation. We had this handoff method where uh, we would each have our own characters in that game because you could create your own characters, and we each had our own armies, which I eventually did something similar with this with my good pal Slim with this game, Path of Radiance. Um, but anyway, there was tons of customization of Final Fantasy Tactics. And then we saw this game advertised probably like a commercial or in a magazine. I don't know. But we knew it was a tactics style game. So we were really excited. And we rented it. And we were a little disappointed that we'd never played Fire Emblem before, to be clear. But we were a little disappointed that it was like all the characters were already kind of predetermined. But as we kept playing, we kind of like held on hope that at some point we would gain access to some sort of character creation or like recruitment mode that was like in Tactics. I don't know why we thought this. Again, we'd never played Fire Emblem before. We didn't know this was Fire Emblem 9, you know. This was our first Fire Emblem. But that being said, that never did end up happening, but we did enjoy the game very much. We never ended up finishing it on that rent, but we did get very far. I remember getting to chapter 20 something, which is pretty deep into the game. Um, and I may still have that save file, honestly, on a memory card somewhere. But what's cool is that copy that we rented, I potentially own now because my brother actually did purchase it from the place that we rented games at when they were like, in with the, GameCube, that's old. We got to make room for the new stuff. So we did buy our copy of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance from that very same rental place. So it could very well be the same copy that we were introduced to it on, which is a neat idea. I like to think that it is the same copy. It could be. It could be. I don't know. I don't know how many copies they were given. It could have just been one. But this game is very hard to get your hands on now, by the way. Not difficult in terms of buying it. It's more of so that it's a very expensive GameCube game, and Nintendo really needs to release this one. So anyway, there's my nostalgia for Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Let me tell you why I love it. Uh, like I mentioned, it is a strategy RPG. It has some of the most likable characters in the series, I think. Just a really solid cast of protagonists. A lot of the side characters in a lot of these games definitely kind of just get swept under the rug. They're just like, oh, this is another fighter. A lot of the beginning characters of the game, they stay like relevant like throughout the game. You are interested in their stories. You are interested in how they grow as characters, even just through like the support conversations or the conversations they have with Ike, the main character. So I feel like just the cast in this game is very well likable. Ike, the main character, is very well likable. He is one of the coolest protagonists in any video game I've ever played. He's really cool. He's in Smash Bros. You may have heard me geeking out about how much I loved him being added into Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and that's because I think he's a really cool protagonist, and it's really fun to see his growth throughout the game. This game also has one of my favorite villains in video gaming, in the Black Knight. I don't want to say too much on the Black Knight because I really feel like you should play Path of Radiance. But let me tell you, he is an awesome villain. I love the Black Knight. Again, one of my favorite villains in gaming, possibly just one of my favorite characters in gaming. And I really, really wish he was an actual playable character in in Smash Bros. It's cool that he's an assist trophy. It's cool that you can make him a Mii fighter. But man, I really wish you could play as the Black Knight in Smash Bros. Because he is really cool. This game has one of my favorite parts of Fire Emblem games where they're just linear. A lot of the newer ones are very open and very overwhelming. This game has a lot fewer options when it comes to that. Not that it's like not deep, but I prefer the style of Fire Emblem where it is point A to point B, because it allows you to focus more on the story and it gives you more focus on like the main character and and more focus on like the villains and whatnot. Not to say that the later ones aren't like cool for expanding the world. I feel like those games allow you to focus more on side characters. I feel like the support systems are a lot more built up in later Fire Emblem games. But I just think the linear style of Fire Emblem is just my preferred way to play. And this one just does it well. And there's a ton of hours in it. There's just a lot of chapters. This one just has like one of the most chapters, just in terms of just like point A to point B. There's no grinding or anything like that. Like you just have to play through it. And this game just has some amazing music. The battle themes are really cool. The map themes are almost great. The only bad thing is like there's a point in the game where like the same song plays for like so many chapters, and that's like its only downfall as far as that goes. It's not a bad song, but there comes a point where you're like, man, I really wish another song would play right now. That's like its only downfall. I wish there was a few more map songs, like one or two more. But yeah, it has some really good music, and honestly, the graphics are pretty good. They have aged for sure, but I never have looked at them and thought they were ugly even today. And I just really like this game. I really like Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. It's my first Fire Emblem. It'll probably always be my favorite Fire Emblem. I can't see anything dethroning it anytime soon. It does everything right, and now there's a randomizer for it. I've not been able to get it to work, but if I ever do, it's just gonna take this game above and beyond for me. So, because I love Fire Emblem Rando. Anyway, guys, that's it. I keep gushing about Path of Radiance. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I don't want to ruin the game for you. You should play it. It's only like like $1 million to buy online. So hopefully Nintendo will eventually re-release that one on Switch someday. Or some sort of remake or anything, because it really deserves to be played. So I've been OdinSpack. I will see you next time for the year 2004, where we are in for yet another doozy of a video. So until then, take care and goodbye.